Hey everyone, welcome to the Adam Podcast, a show where we talk about creativity, tech, business, and everything in between. Today we're talking about Threads, Instagram's new app, which is absolutely taking the world by storm with 100 million users on the app within a week of launching. So topics that we're going to get into today, and there's quite a lot of them, are Threads versus Twitter, how Threads could actually come out on top, the pros and cons of Thread after using it for about a week, the pros and cons of Twitter after using that for 5 years, the Elon Musk versus Zuckerberg debacle, and if there is space on the internet for two word-based social sites. So let's get right into it. I want to start off by talking about the elixir of choice today, which is the Celsius green apple cherry. I just saw it at a gas station. I wanted to try it. It looked okay, and honestly, it is okay. I'd say the flavor is pretty mild, but it's not bad. But yeah, let me know what you're drinking in the comments, wherever you're watching this, and let's just get into it. So before we get into Threads, I think it's important to talk about what social media looks like right now. As of RN, right now we have Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn, Truth Social, and Tumblr. Right? Let's just go through all those. Facebook, first of all, I love Facebook, but not for the reasons that I think most people do. The only time I go on Facebook is really whenever I want to look into the people who are only on Facebook, like my family members, like my grandma, my aunts, like all these people who just are not on Instagram, but they know how to use Facebook. And I go in and I see what they're doing, and it's cool. Facebook also serves an additional purpose of groups. Like, groups are so powerful on Facebook. Like, I'm a part of this chess community. Like, how cool is that? I love being a part of this Subaru local community where people just talk about Subarus or what's happening in the world or what's happening with their cars, and people share advice and things like that. It works as this really private forum for different communities. And I also like Facebook Marketplace. I love being able to go and buy things off of Facebook, or go, and if I want to buy something local, I could see who I'm buying it from. I can make sure they're not like a creep or anything like that. Now, Instagram, I think, is like one of the best social media platforms right now, right? Only because it's the place where people could actually go and connect with their friends. Like, all of my friends, it seems like, is actually on Instagram, and I could go and I could see what they're doing today. I could see what's on their story. I could see what's happening in their life. That's where I find out people are engaged. That's where I find out people are having a baby. That's where I find out major life updates, like someone graduated. So I love the purpose of Instagram. That's something that doesn't exist on TikTok, right? On TikTok, you are so in the gray. You don't know what's happening in your friend's life at all. Like, they don't share it. How many friends do you have are actively giving you news updates on TikTok, right? Like, to me, it's nothing. So I have other opinions on TikTok, but let's move on a little bit. We have Twitter. I love Twitter, right? Twitter has long been the word-based social platform that I think is going to continue to live on the internet. I do think it's going to be different now that Threads is a part of the equation, but I don't think it's going anywhere. Now, LinkedIn, I love LinkedIn. It's a great place to network. I love being able to see so many professionals on there. I love being able to follow different authors, lawyers, other professionals on there, and I love getting insight on their businesses and what's happening in their marketing and things like that. Okay, now we have Truth Social. So I do have a Truth Social account. I don't think I've ever posted, but the problem with Truth Social as of right now is that it is so political, and I don't think it's the flavor that is mass appealing, right? Like, I think for social media to thrive, it really needs to be more mass appealing, right? And right now, True Social is completely right leaning, and that could just make a lot of people uncomfortable, and it's just one of the major drawbacks of the site. Other than that, it just looks like a Twitter copycat. Now, Tumblr. I honestly don't know why Tumblr is even in this conversation. I don't really consider it a social media site, but to each their own. It's here, and apparently it's not going anywhere. Oh my gosh, I completely forgot about Snapchat. How Snapchat is still relevant is beyond me. I don't use it. I don't mess with it. I stopped using it after I graduated high school, and I just don't understand how it's been relevant years and years later. But apparently people still use it. I have a lot of friends who use it, so I don't want to knock it too hard. But that is what the social media landscape looks like right now. We have apps like Facebook, Instagram, like the metas, and now that includes Thread. We have YouTube, Twitter, Tumblr, all these different spaces. So when a new app enters the game, like Threads, the question is, why? Why do we need another app? Is it necessary for people to download another app? So I was a huge skeptic on Threads, first of all, just because I'm like, okay, well, Meta already has so much. They have Facebook, they have WhatsApp, they have Instagram, they have Snapchat. Do they really need something else? Like what kind of monopoly game are they trying to play here? But I downloaded the app. I was on the first day whenever it came out, and honestly, guys, I use it every day. I love Threads, right? I love threading. I am a threader, if that is a word, right? It already has given me so much opportunity to interact with some of my favorite brands in the world, right? And that opportunity has never happened on Instagram, right? And that's never happened on TikTok. And that might just be the stage of where Threads is right now. So if you've never been on Threads, it's pretty much like, it looks a lot like Twitter. It feels like Twitter, except it doesn't have any of the bad things that people associate with Twitter as of right now. For example, like there's not a lot of like heated arguments that are happening on Thread, right? Like people, it seems like a very light type of environment. No one's taking themselves too seriously. Everyone just feels like they're having a good time. So I actually follow Mark Cuban on Threads, and he retweeted or he rethreaded something. Is that the word? I'm not sure, but he rethreaded something, and someone said, Threads just feels like a giant group chat. Does anyone else feel that way? And when someone said that, I was like, yes, that is so true. Because on Threads, I could go in and I could just talk to people, right? I could just like start a conversation with someone that I've been following for a really, really long time. Like, for example, one of my favorite authors of all time. His name's Ernie McManus. If a lot of my friends or people that know me are watching this, they know that I absolutely adore Ernie McManus, right? And he posted a question, and I forgot what this question was. But he was talking about being intentional. So I remember asking him, "What are the things that you're being intentional about in this season?" And then he just responded, right? And I really love that interaction. Like Threads just feels like this really intimate type of setting where you can actually have just completely text-based conversations, right? Like on Snapchat, you have to take a picture and send it to someone, and they have to go out of their way to take a picture and then send it to you. And it's like, I don't know, on Threads, it really is this public forum where you guys can all have conversations collectively, right? And I understand the similarities right there with Twitter, right? It's not like Twitter is doing anything differently. It's just that honestly, my favorite people are not on Twitter. Like this author, Ernie McManus, he was not on Twitter for a really, really long time. And even on their podcast, they talked about how they just didn't like Twitter. So I don't know. It just something left a bad taste in their mouth. But as of right now, Threads is a really warm and welcoming place where people are having conversations. And I really, really like that. Okay, so other things I like about Threads. One, you do not start from zero. Whenever you start on social media, on any social media platform, you always start at zero, right? No one follows you, you don't follow anyone, and you pretty much have to follow all your friends again and everything like that. But on Threads, because it's so embedded with Instagram nature, you could just follow everyone you already follow on Instagram, just like that, in a second. In a second. I love that. And then everyone who joins Threads now has the option of being able to follow you if they already follow you on Instagram. So boom, already just a couple days in, I have almost like 100 followers on Threads. And again, like who cares? It doesn't matter. But what I like about that is that it's not zero, right? So now whenever I share something, I know that people who already follow me on Instagram are gonna see it on Threads. And that's just a comforting thing. I love that some of my friends on Instagram are now my friends on Thread. I don't have to go out of my way on refollowing them on a whole other platform. I don't have to think about whether they're even on that platform. All the work is done, right? You just have to click a button and now boom, it's like all your stuff is synced. So that really matters to me, and I really like it. I also really like how it's able to import things like your Instagram bio, your Instagram profile picture, and your Instagram link in bio. Like it's all there now, right? It just completely imports it, and it takes zero work. And things like that make Threads feel so familiar, even though it's so new, right? It is so new, but it feels so familiar because it's just doing things right. Look, a couple days ago, I tweeted, no, I threaded, I sent a thread out into the world, and I said, Threads is like Twitter if all your friends were on Twitter. And that's real. I love that my friends are posting things on Thread and they're sharing their thoughts into the world that they would have never shared on Twitter because they don't care for Twitter, right? But now Threads is familiar, and Threads is now part of their everyday life. And because of that, Threads feels and is so much easier to use and adapt to than Twitter, right? But the app isn't perfect, right? Threads is not a perfect app by any means. And one, this is still like version one of the app. So I'm sure things are going to get better. But right now, these are the things I don't like about the app. One, you cannot DM people, right? So I was recently having a conversation with someone and I couldn't send them a DM. So we had a DM on Instagram, which is fine. Like, if that's the future that Threads wants to create, it's like, don't message me on Threader, just message me on Instagram. So that could work. It's just a small gripe. Another small gripe is the explore feature. There is essentially no explore feature on Threads. Like if you want, there's a search option just that lets you search for people and it shows random people. I'm sure they're going to fix that. Again, this is just the version one of the product. Twitter wasn't perfect whenever it first started, so there's no reason why we need to expect that this is perfect right now. But just to be clear and make sure I air everything out, that's where Thread is right now. So feels like Twitter, but it's easier than Twitter, and it's a place where your friends are actually hanging out. So the question is, and it's a question that I want to ask you guys right now, do you like it more than Twitter? Right, I'll answer this myself. For one, I actually use it a lot more than Twitter now, right? I'll use it a lot. I use it so much more than Twitter. And I don't know if that's going to change. It might change. But as of right now, I'm using it every day. It is literally on my home screen next to like my fitness app. So it's great and I'm liking it over there. Okay, one more thing that I don't like about the app that a ton of people are actually disliking is the amount of data that it's actually collecting from you. So for one, I don't know if you actually care about your data. For me personally, I understand that the data collection allows businesses to reach the right people at the right time with the right message. So for one, I actually appreciate some sort of data collection, right? Because then I love being able to see ads that are curated to more my taste, right? Because if I'm going to see an ad, right, then I'd rather see an ad that actually makes sense to me. I'd rather see an ad that actually provides value to me instead of seeing an ad that is just so random because there is no data collection. But I do think that's a personal preference, though. If you do care about your data and you want to protect your privacy, then maybe Threads is not the place for you. And hopefully they have some options to where they can private things like that in the future. But as of right now, it looks like it's collecting pretty much everything they can. Okay, so now I want to get into Twitter. Let's talk about the pros and cons of Twitter. For one, Twitter has made a name of itself over the past year. Okay, it was already a household name, but over the past year, things have changed. For one, ever since Elon Musk took over, it really has become this place for free speech and anonymity and also monetization, right? Like monetization through video and text is apparently now competing with YouTube ad revenue, right? So it seems to be a better place for creators as of right now. If you are like a video creator, if you're someone making content, I do think it is a smart thing to post all your stuff on Twitter as well, especially if you have an audience. All the other pros of Twitter is pretty much anything that anyone who's already familiar with the platform already knows. But I do have some major problems with Twitter as of right now. For one, on my Twitter page, it feels like everyone is trying to sell me something, and I don't like it. Everyone is trying to sell me their course. Everyone's trying to get me to subscribe to them. And it just feels so unnatural. It's like, I get it. This is your hustle. You're trying to make something. But like every single time, like I don't want to feel that every single time I get on Twitter. Like I want to get on Twitter and just scroll and laugh and feel good. And like that's what I want to do. And more often, it just feels like that's not happening. And I don't like it. So another question I have is this Elon Musk's fault? Well, for one, I didn't use Twitter a lot before Elon Musk's. I always had Twitter and I always scrolled on Twitter every once in a while, but it was never like a priority. But ever since Elon Musk did take over, I did start committing to spending a little bit more time there. And I have been enjoying it pretty often. I love the conversations that I had there. It seems to be a more unbiased type of space, right? Twitter seems to be the place where people are having really, really important and thoughtful conversations. Right, I love that people could go in, ask questions, start arguing in the comments, and then people could just get involved. And it feels like a place where people can actually find answers and give constructive criticism and have pretty insightful conversations. Now, because of that nature, that unfortunately makes it also possible for there to be a lot of hatred on the platform too. A lot of polarizing opinions, people expressing their thoughts, and sometimes in a very provocative and disgraceful way, and that could sometimes make me feel uncomfortable, and honestly I don't want to see that all the time, right? So when I say that Threads feels like a place that's more calm, warming, and fun, like that's primarily because Twitter feels like the opposite right now. It's like if you go on Twitter, I promise you will see a fight happening, right? You will see the almost the worst of humanity on Twitter. And it's because people are having those conversations because like the world could be a very nasty place. And honestly, Twitter kind of gives those things a light just because other platforms don't. And I do have to applaud Twitter for that. Twitter has the conversations that no one else is having, and it is having those necessary conversations. Which is why whenever we have this conversation between Threads versus Twitter, I really do think we're going to live in a world where there are two primary word-based social media sites. I think there is an audience for Twitter users, and I think there's an audience for Thread users, right? And I think both of them could thrive and coexist with each other. And honestly, I'm going to be a bit of a hybrid. Whenever I want to be in like a Twitter mood and I'm kind of wanting to see some things that aren't shown on other platforms, like I love being able to have the option of opening Twitter and seeing things that are happening in the world right now, right? And whenever I want something a little bit more playful or enjoyable, or I just want to laugh a little bit, I love having the option of being able to open up Threads. I do not think Threads' success is necessarily Twitter's demise. I do not think this is going to be the downfall of Twitter. I think Twitter is going to be just fine, but I do think there needs to be a space on the internet for a public forum that feels a little bit less heavy than Twitter, and I think Threads could be that place. At the end of the day, there's always going to be people who, dislike Elon Musk and dislike the natural culture of Twitter, but it doesn't mean that they don't want to scroll through a word-based social platform. And there's also going to be people who, pretty much do not like Mark Zuckerberg and what he's done with Meta and Facebook and the amount of data collecting that he's participated in, and they just do not want to be involved. And I think Twitter is a healthy avenue and option for them. So at the beginning of every year, I try to focus on a word that's going to be kind of like, like the word that I kind of hold on to throughout the year, right? Like something that I could be intentional about focusing on. And this year, my word was balanced, right? Like for one, I think everything in life thrives under balance, right? Like whether we're talking about our health and fitness, whether we're talking about food, whether we're talking about our education, whether we're talking about the amount of content that we consume. There was a study that was conducted over people that were over 100 years old, right? Because there's this community in California of just filled with a bunch of people who happen to be over the age of 100, right? And doctors and researchers are studying them. They're trying to figure out like why they live so long. Like what are their diets? What do they focus on? Do they take their vitamins? Do they exercise all the time? Do they consume caffeine? And what the studies found was fascinating because they found that moderation and balance was the most important reason for why they are thriving. Like when you look at their caffeine intakes, the people who are over the age of 100 in the study, it's not that they weren't consuming caffeine, because they were, but they were consuming caffeine moderately. It's like they were having a cup of coffee or 2 cups of coffee a day, right? That's moderation. They're not having 13. That's bad, right? Even when we look at their exercise habits, these people aren't exercising 3 hours a day. No, that's bad. But they are exercising 45 minutes a day. And that includes pretty much the time that you're standing, times that you're walking, going to the store, 45 minutes, right? That's balance. That's moderation. Even alcohol consumption. These people are not getting drunk, but a lot of them were having a cup of wine at dinner. That's balance. So I think when you look at social media platforms like Threads or Twitter, you need to think in terms of balance. And I think both of these platforms could exist on this balance type of scale. And I think one platform is going to be great for someone with a particular interest or one with a particular hobby. And I think the other one's going to be a healthier platform for them and their interests and what they like to see on the internet. The point of this is that this is not a black or white conversation, and that Threads can be successful and Twitter can be successful. Two things can be true at the same time. Oh my gosh. I can't believe we didn't even talk about Elon Musk versus Mark Zuckerberg. Apparently they're going to box, right? Also, these two on their own respected platforms are going so ham and nuts on each other. It honestly feels like we're in middle school, and I actually really like it. I love living in such interesting times. We have Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk, some of the wealthiest, richest men in the world, arguing on social media sites, talking about whose beep is bigger. Like, you cannot make this stuff up. So much is happening in the world, and I love getting to talk about all of it with you all. So thanks for watching, and if you made it this far, comment peanut butter so I know, and rate this 5 stars, or leave a comment wherever you're watching this, and I will see you on the next episode. Have a good one.